Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 1st, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Monday, happy Garfield Day. Hopefully you got that lasagna, a little wine, a little garlic bread on the side. Hopefully today was a good day for you. Hopefully not just the day, hopefully the whole weekend. I know it's been a little bit. But as I mentioned, I was like, oh, there might be a chance, we go the whole weekend again, so it goes. But I've been having a good time. So we can go ahead and do a whole weekend recap. And then, talk about Monday. And then we'll get into some news. How's that sound? All right, let's start back at Friday. It's Friday. It was a good day. Solid day. We got up, we got to work. I got out of work early because I was not trying to stay there. And got a good gym session in. And then I got myself together and headed off to Zoe's, my beautiful girlfriend. Yeah. So yeah, that was fun. It was awesome. We were watching a little bit of I Like to Watch and the web series with Trixie and Katya. You can look that up. It was really funny. I'm trying to think what other stuff that we had also watched. A little bit of RuPaul's, but that was later in the night. Kind of just, stitching the weekend together from like food corners. That's essentially how this is going to go. So let's start with Zip's Cafe. This was a spot that Zoe was like, ooh, we haven't been here. I was actually kind of thinking about going to Terry's Turf Club because I was saying that might be my burger of the year. I think the burger I had at Terry's Turf Club, that did something to me. But that being said, she was like, ooh, I really want you to try this. It's going to be a yummy spot. And I was like, and then she mentioned, excuse me. She mentioned some of the food and I was like, okay, I'm interested. These burgers sound, definitely enticing. So, we get ourselves together and we go out to Zips. Very cute restaurant. It's got a little bar situation, alongside, they're selling some nice little burgers. I didn't check out most, I think they had like sandwiches and some other stuff on the menu, but I was in burger mode. So I ordered the train wreck, which, very fitting because they have like a whole little train set that's going around the top of the establishment, which I thought was very cute. But this burger is giving the itis. It's giving the Luther burger. So I had to have it. Let me see if I can recall what was on the burger. We had, I want to say it was like a 1/4 pound patty. Then we had 2 pieces of ham. We had onions. We had some lettuce, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit of ketchup, mustard situation. I think they brought that for the table side, ketchup and mustard. You gotta love it. But I was feeling gluttonous. Wait. And then they also split a Met hot dog and they put that shit on there. But like I said, I was feeling gluttonous and I was like, can I add bacon to that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, awesome, let's go. I had that with some onion rings, and then I had a Rheingeist, I believe it was called Centuries, I'm not sure. The drink was pretty good. It definitely paired pretty well with the burgie, so I was very happy about that. Zoe got pretty much the same thing, just sans, I think it might not have had the hot dog on it, I'm not sure, I can't remember. But her burger was also just as crazy in its own way. I think maybe it was just minus one of the things that I mentioned on mine. Maybe it was... I can't recall it this time, but it looked equally delicious, and she got cheese fries. Also, she ordered the piccoltini, which we both kind of agreed it wasn't like, it was giving essence of pickle, which is like, okay, but you kind of want to taste the pickle. You know what I mean? Both burgers were very good, very yummy. I got to try hers. So yeah, kicking off the weekend with a burger bang. I will say, I don't know why I get like this, but I had like just burger lust, food lust, and I wanted to go to like Burger King and get a Whopper. I was so tempted, but then we like were doing the logistics, and I was just like, yeah, no, never mind. I changed my mind. Let's go home. But needless to say, off to a good start there. We chill. That goes into Saturday. Saturday, we wind up seeing the homies in Northside, little Northside hangs. We wind up going to Chameleon. It was yummy. We get 3 slices of pizza. Well, technically 4. But we got the Bianca, the veggie, and the pepperoni. Starting with the Bianca, it was some kind of artichoke number. That was like the mainstay of the slice, I would say. It had this like balsamic kind of drizzle on it. And I gotta say, that one was kind of the worst one. Usually the Bianca is kind of like the star of the night. But it's just not... I don't know. They're spamming the balsamic, drizzle a little too much in my opinion. And maybe and I said this at the table and people, they're like, oh, really? And I'm not an artichoke guy. I just don't think I'm the biggest artichoke dude. I'm not an artichoke Andy, if you will. But, that being said, I ate it all down. Also, now that I'm fully recalling the experience, it was giving like too thin, like the consistency of the pizza as they usually are. It was too thin for some reason. I don't know, hard to explain, but or at least thin in a way I didn't like. I'll say that because I do like a thin crust pizza. Don't get me wrong. The veggie kind of stole the show in a way. It had like this carrot pesto number and some other little green numbers. Of course, it's giving veggie. It was good. It was yummy. It redeemed. And the pepperoni was a good standard, so that was nice. And then I got some Cajun fries. Zoe and I split all of that. So there was that meal for Saturday. We did our usual bar hopping situation. We also watched the... We closed out the night after coming from Junkers. We did the whole Chameleon into Tavern into Junkers. But we closed out the night back at the homie's house and with some wrestling. Mask versus Mask. What is it? Americano Grande versus Americano Grande. The loser had to reveal themselves. Honestly, one of the most fun. I don't want to say match of the year. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely more to come, and WrestleMania stuff happened. That was also some cool stuff. There were some highlights, low lights too. But needless to say, this match, I was literally telling my homie who put me onto this when we were watching. I'm like, dude, this is giving mucha lucha. I love it, dude. It was just so intense. Everything was happening. It was, and then not to mention too, if you had followed any of this stuff going on in the WWE, it just felt like an ultimate reveal, a final showdown between these two dudes. So it was giving high drama. I fucked with it. It was a nice time. I think. Oh yeah. Also, we close out the night. We finally get home after all that. We make some, I say we, I'm just participating. I'm bearing witness and getting to eat Zoe's wonderful, awesome cooking, which I'm going to get to soon. She made 2 sourdough grilled cheeses, and she has some cheese sauce, and she has some tortilla chips, and we were just eating it. And that was nice. That was fun. That was yum. And that's how we closed out Saturday. Let's see. Sunday, we kind of do a little bit of sleeping. We have a bit of I woke up early as I want to do, and I usually can't kind of go back to sleep. It just depends. But then I was up for a few hours, and I go back to bed. And then she kind of wakes up, and she's up. And then she wakes me up, and she's like, hey, I was going to get some coffee. I just want to let you know, or unless you want to come with. And I was like, ooh, and I was kind of thinking, because I was in my little sleep mode, and I kind of wanted to say no, I want to sleep, but I was like, ooh, where are we going? Where are you going? And she was like, I'm gonna go to Coffee Emporium, and I'd never been there, and she'd wanted me to go there, and so I was like, ooh, yeah, I definitely want to go. I'm gonna get up. So we went, and very cute, cozy area. I think one of my favorite things about the spot is that sitting out in the front, there's this really cool, trippy, psychedelic mushroom house that you can look at while you're sipping on your coffee, eating your little food snack thing. So that off rip, I really like just the vibes. It's really nice. And it's just a generally scenic area to walk around in. Very, cozy, well, if you will, but I heard there was an upstairs. I'm going to go and look at that. But, The person who, was ringing us out, helping us out, was very savvy. Also, they had they shit on. Everyone was kind of swagged out, I noticed, which is, obviously very cool. You want to see your baristas with swag. I immediately trusted this person. And, we didn't really know what we wanted, or, maybe Zoe was just, saying, hey, I'm open. And I think we got some kind of caramel, I think it was caramel macaroon latte, iced. And I got a Rice Krispie, and then she got, I believe, a blueberry cheese Danish. And the Rice Krispie was yummy. It was good. She let me try the Danish, and I gotta say, it was good on the components. But I'm pretty sure I've said this before. I am not a Danish guy. I wanted to, kind of try that to say, hey, let me give it another try. I've gotten older. Maybe my palate has changed. Not so much where I'm like, ooh, yummy, yummy Danish. It just, I could tell that this was a good thing, but it just wasn't for me. But that being said, the coffee ripped. It was very yummy. Like I said, the Rice Krispie was like a slab. It was nice and thick, and very good. So, definitely would love to go back to Coffee Emporium. Very yummy. Thumbs up. Let's see here. After that, we got back home, and then we were watching some Survivor. We were chilling. And came Sunday dinner time, which we kind of brainstormed what she was gonna make, and she was like, "What would you want?" And I was just like, "Ooh, so like a fancy or a fantasy little dinner for me." Ooh. So I'm thinking, and the time this is midweek, and I was like, "I think I want steak and eggs." And I had this whole reason for it. It stems from like reading Michael Jordan, like biography bullshit books or whatever I had. And like one of his favorite breakfasts was steak and eggs. And I remember I tried to do it either in like my probably like early 20s, mid 20s. No, it would have been like mid or late 20s, some shit. And it didn't turn out very well. It was edible, but it wasn't, really good. It wasn't great. Anyway. I'm not trying to dwell on, past mistakes or survival experiences, but needless to say, I was like, ooh, yeah, I want that. And then later, I was like, I'd asked, I think maybe on the day, I was like, do you have potatoes? Because that would be a good add-on. And then, so we made diced potatoes with it. Once again, I keep saying we, and I shouldn't be saying we. I'm just the little guy coming to eat it all up. But Zoe made some T-bone steaks, or not T-bone steaks. I'm sorry, New York strips, and made one for each of us with 2 eggs. What was it? Over easy, and the potatoes, which we like seasoned up and everything like that. Made them a little spicy, and boy howdy, it was so good. It was so yummy. Like literally getting to like get some of the yolk in the steak, like, ooh, it was so good. Honestly, Brenner of the year for sure, hands down. I don't think we're topping it, chef. It was so good. I was so happy. I was just inhaling the plate anime style. So needless to say, that was awesome to close the weekend on, the Sunday on. After that, wrapped up the night, and I drove to the gym. I had a late night gym session, and I would say it went well. I'm noticing that we are having like the summer trend of like kids being off, more people being a little bit more out, and it's been a busy gym year. So like I came expecting there not to be that many people, but up until like maybe the last 15 minutes, there was a good amount of people in there for 10:30. And not to mention, it was like a cluster of bros like doing pull-ups right next to me while I'm at the Smith machine. I'm like, oh, I love that for me. But overall, W gym session. I got to like, put that steak to use. I love that. And then that moves us into Monday, Lasagna Mondays. We... Let me say that I did not sleep well, and I'm going to use this moment to take actually a water break. Now, I didn't sleep well, and it's my own damn fault, because I came home, and I got myself... I realized it was too late. I didn't really want to podcast. I was like, I'm going to save everything for Monday, and, let me just, like, take a shower, unwind, and, do my thing. And I was watching this traffic documentary. What was it? Traffic. Maria Van Zeller, I think. Nat Geo. So I can watch this on YouTube. And I was catching up on one I was watching in a previous week. and that led me into a one about steroids. And steroids has been a topic. I've talked about my musings, my thoughts. You could say even temptations. It's something that's been a topic on my mind, and I've talked about it with my friends, even with this whole lifting arc that I've been on. So, and see also the Enhanced Games episode where I was talking about the shit a little bit, my thoughts on that. So I'm watching this and just seeing this all go down. I initially am like intrigued just for like, you're showing this guy, he's this bodybuilder and he's just sticking himself all the time, which is crazy to be doing. And I'm like, okay, so what's this guy all about? And it turns out this dude is like some kind of, he calls himself a doctor, Dr. Huge. And turns out not a doctor. He has a doctorate. He was a lawyer. And he said he's trading in his life of being I think a defense attorney or some shit to explore human evolution. And like, dude, this dude's yoked out of his fucking mind. And like, good for him. But you can tell that his whole grift, I'm calling it a grift, is essentially getting younger, adults, pretty much young kids, essentially hooked on his, underground ass, fucking basement ass, fucking steroids or, supplement enhancements, whatever the fuck we're calling them. And, he's giving them to them. I'm putting that in quotations. And I'm just seeing this whole wild ride. And I'm just like, it's turning to like documentary to like scary movie for me. And I'm like, I get that feeling in my stomach. Like I feel so bad for these young kids who are thinking like, this guy's like a doctor. I trust him. He gave me this like cool care package. And like, I'm really seeing the results and just going down this whole rabbit hole with this guy and the group of people he's like, helping out with. And then also like stories of people who, they're in their 20s and they're doing this shit, on their own, or they're their own way. And then something happens and then their whole life is turned upside down. And now they're like not even 30 years old and they're worrying about blowing out their heart. And it's like, yeah, man, this is why it's like, as much as I do find the whole thing fascinating, I do believe and feel like, hey, to a certain extent, you should be allowed to do this shit if that's what you want. Who can really stop you? But then you just see when you open up these floodgates and then it gets to like literal kids are in high school and shit and they're on this. It's like, dude, this is so fucked. So yeah, it definitely left me with like a mixed emotion feel, type of thing. That being said, I'm very glad that that's not something I've ever, fucked with. Granted, I was always priced out about that. Like literally just hearing like a vague price tag. I was like, yep, I knew that. I had to feel like I could never afford that shit. Ain't no way. And I'm sure whatever I could have afforded would probably been some shit that would have like killed me on its own somehow. And not to mention I fucking hate needles and I'm not trying to fucking take some pills for this shit and once again blow out my heart. There's already other reasons why that's probably, a potential risk and worry for me. I don't want to exacerbate it. Needless to say, this kept me up till like 2 a.m. and I was like, oh shit, I need to go to bed. And I kind of couldn't go to sleep and I was like, oh, so we get up, we get to work, we drag through that shit. But overall, not a bad day. I actually got to stay on the Crusher all day, which we love to see. And so yeah, after that, we tried to go home, actually. And I tried to take a nap. Once again, for some reason, couldn't sleep, which was strange. So it goes. So needless to say, I'm still bushwhacked. But I get up, I get a Monster, and I head off to the gym. Gym, like I said, was busy. I think they have a summer little program, so there's people. It's a lot of covered surface area, if you will. But I will say, with my new adaptation, I don't want to say new, but it's just like I feel very ready for days like this. Is what I'm trying to get at. I just kind of go in. I know what I want to get out of the day, and I just kind of color by number for what's available. And that's been working for me. It's been feeling good. So we love that. Post the gym, we come home, we do our stretch, we have our snack, we do some research, and here we are. So yeah, as is tradition. So yes, let's go ahead and do the startup, and let's get into some news. I will say, I know that, with this newer format, this newer style, when I miss some days, these things are going to happen. Mea culpa. News is definitely going to fall by the wayside. I kind of tried to do a little bit of bundling at the tail end of the Thursday episode, knowing I was going to be missing some stuff. Hopefully, I can get to the bigger stories or the stories I really want to cover and I don't miss too much. We're going to try to do a little bit of talking and catching up here today. But, doing my best. Also, before we fully get into the startup, it is the first of the month. So you know what that means. It's a newsy roll call. So yeah, let me go ahead and get the list. Unfurls parchment. Stephanie Renee, good old Mama Bear, and Kira Finsky. And then also shout out to Nail Alchemist. I'm getting the name right. I'm sorry. Once again, mea culpa. I'm on my knees. But you got any nails you want done? You got a whole thing set up. You should go. You should check it out. I do have a link in one of my Instagram. Little bios. I'm gonna try to do that for this one. Also, shout out to my homie Ryan. Shout out to Sculptor. They're going to be playing at Radio Artifact, Urban Artifact. So you get yourself a nice little drink. Hear some nice ass fucking sounds. It's going to be June 5th, this Friday. I'm also going to be trying to make that. Not that this is like a meet and greet situation. That would be weird. Don't be parasocial. But obviously, I do this here for my friends. So, a little bit of a signal boost, a little thing for that. And, we do that for our newsies. We support our newsies. We support local music. We support local artists. Okay, so yeah, get your fucking nails done. Get ready for the function. Do that. All right, there you go. Cool. We love a good roll call. Man, I know that sound. It's gonna sound great. Oh, let me make an addendum because I'm remembering this now. I also ordered on some fat shit. Not only did I get the burger with the onion rings, I also saw that they had a coney dog. They had a Zips coney dog, and I was like, all right, I gotta try that too. And that also slapped. My only critique about that, they gave the cheese cold, not melted, nothing like that, which is, it's a choice. But I'll tell you what carried, the dog itself, and the chili was really yummy. Good. I could easily tell you that chili was better than like a Skyline or a Gold Star. I know, come from me. But like, once again, you could just say that's as easy as just because they're making a variation or just keeping it simple, stupid, and that works. You don't have to make it sweet or anything weird. But who am I to say? All right. Can't forget the dog. From Yahoo News. Bus hits cars in Virginia, killing 5 people and injuring 34, state police say. A bus crashed into vehicles slowing for a work zone on Interstate 95 in Virginia early Friday, killing 5 people and injuring dozens, including the driver, authorities said. The crash happened at about 2:35 a.m. on southbound I-95 in Stafford County, near Quantico. All 5 of the people who died were in vehicles hit by the bus, and 44 people were taken to hospitals, including 3 in critical condition, police said. Excuse me. The preliminary investigation indicates that traffic was slowing down southbound for an upcoming work zone, state police said in a news release. A bus failed to slow for traffic and struck 6 vehicles. Police said there were approximately 34 passengers on the bus. Let's see. 4 of the fatalities were in one car, which caught fire. State police said the victims were a 45-year-old male, a 44-year-old female, a 13-year-old female, and a 7-year-old male, all from Greenfield, Massachusetts. Their names were not released by police, but a statement from the school the children attended in Greenfield said they were Dmitry and Ekaterina Doncev, and their daughter Emily and son Mark. The 5th victim, an unidentified 25-year-old female from Worcester, Massachusetts, which I'm sure I'm getting that pronunciation wrong, was in an SUV that was struck by the bus. The state police identified the bus driver as Jing S. Dong, 48, of Staten Island, New York. Charges are pending, authorities said. Let's see here. I would say the rest is more details, but, obviously condolences to everyone involved in that situation. I saw that story on Friday, and I didn't want to forget to cover that or let that fall by the wayside, so I figured to go ahead and start with that. Kind of a bit out of our usual sequence, though. We are going to move to some world events, some conflicts and shit that we have been covering from the BBC. Israel seizes castle in Lebanon as it expands ground offensive. The Israeli military has captured the strategic site of Beaufort Castle in southern Lebanon in what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described as a decisive shift in its offensive against Hezbollah. It comes as ground troops move ever deeper into Lebanese territory beyond their original demarcation line of the Litani River. The UK, France, and Germany criticized Israel's latest escalation as Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, warned more residents to evacuate a larger swath of southern Lebanon. Lebanon's prime minister has accused Israel of carrying out collective punishment, which is something I would agree with. I feel like that is the nicest, most generous way of saying what is happening right now. The latest evacuation warning is the second time in recent days that Israel has told residents to leave the entire south of Lebanon below the Zarani River. Let's see here. Was there anything else I wanted to pull from this before I kind of move into Act 2? Let's see here. They talk about the history of Beaufort Castle, which I think I did want to kind of talk about. Perched over the Litani Valley, Beaufort Castle has been key to controlling the region around it since the Crusaders built it some 900 years ago. The Israeli army captured it 44 years ago in what's known in Israel as the First Lebanon War. In a statement on Sunday following its capture, Netanyahu said it was a decisive stage and shift in our policy. We have broken the barrier of fear. We are taking the initiative. We are operating on all fronts, in Syria, in Gaza, in Lebanon, he said. I mean, I've said this before, but I believe he has counted up to 7 fronts. And when you count all those fronts and you see what has been happening, especially since he has said that, he is not wrong. Israel is actively involved in all of these areas, and the only thing that really takes them off of it is us. It's just America. And really, when I say us, I really mean Donald Trump, which I say be fucking grudgingly. I really fucking do, because it's the only few dubs that this is something that he is capable of. I don't even think that this is necessarily a left or right thing, whether we're talking Democrat, Republican. This is just him, and let's just segue into the next thing. I'm kind of teeing it up. But from Axios, you're fucking crazy. Trump fumes at Netanyahu and call on Lebanon. So this is the about face from what we just fucking talked about. Essentially, I kind of mentioned it on the weekend, but Israel has been cranking up on the warpath. They're like, hey, we are going to more or less force and say that there's a loophole here in the ceasefire that we've agreed to. We're just going to, as Hezbollah is still attacking us. So we still have a right to defend ourselves, and we're going to keep making strikes. We're going to keep making pushes. And that's what we've been fucking seeing. And essentially Trump is saying, what the fuck, dude? You are blowing up my spot. I'm trying to fucking settle this war that you started. President Trump lashed out at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over Israel's escalation in Lebanon in an expletive-laden call on Monday. 2 U.S. officials and a third source briefed on the call told Axios. Earlier on Monday, Iran threatened to abandon negotiations with the U.S. over Israel's actions in Lebanon. On the call, Trump called Netanyahu crazy and accused him of ingratitude, according to 2 of the sources. He also put the brakes on Israel's plan to strike Beirut, which is good. This is one of the few good things that he's done. Granted, on the Iran deal, that shit has been more or less blown. I believe that Iran is on no contact at this point after the weekend. I believe they've both gone hot on some strikes. I don't really feel like digging into the specifics or whatever of that. Well, I don't believe I've heard of any casualties, so that's good. But once again, things are still in that lukewarm on or off shit. We're assuming that the ceasefire is continuing as it is, but that's a question mark. It's continuing to hang while gas prices are kind of dipping lower, but that's only going to last for a little bit. Trump keeps trying to play these fucking word games, but to him and this administration, it's kind of working. But once again, back to this matter at hand, Netanyahu is blowing that shit up by saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna fucking push in Lebanon since you're gonna let me, right?" And it's like, no, I don't want you to do that. Just like I didn't want you to hit Iran again, and I told you not to fucking do that. Let's see. One U.S. official said Trump told Netanyahu that following through on his threats to bomb the Lebanese capital would further isolate Israel around the world. Let's see here. Two of the sources said Trump claimed he'd helped Netanyahu out of jail, a reference to his support during Netanyahu's corruption trial. Now, I don't think I've mentioned this or talked about it too often, but Trump has advocated for a pardon for Netanyahu, which is like, okay, man. Yeah, let's just close these Zinfandel files and all this fucking bullshit, all the bribes, all the fucking corruption. Yeah. I guess you too can be bulletproof. You too can share in Donald Trump's fucking plot armor, if he wants to give it to you. Or it's just like, they're like, yeah, man, we'll just let you do this shit. We'll just let you keep doing all the atrocities, whatever, man, we don't care. As long as you're quote unquote defending us, putting that in quotations, we're fine with it, I guess. So I do think in a way he is going to wind up walking on this shit. He's not going to wind up in a cell just for that shit alone, not to mention the fucking war crimes. But whatever. Needless to say, Trump's like, dude, I'm doing these favors for you and you are dropping the ball. Summarizing Trump's remarks to Netanyahu, the new U.S. official said, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." And he's not wrong. He's like, brother, they're cooking you in the group chat, okay? I've been tooting it up fucking crazy for you. And this is how you repay it. So I do love that this had an effect. Just like it hasn't in the past. I've said this before and I'll say it here. Just like in the Gaza situation, it was specifically Donald J. Trump that made that happen. Fucking Joe Biden couldn't do it. I don't believe that Kamala Harris would either. I'm just being straight up with you. Maybe the liberals are going to be mad at that fucking statement, but you could just read the fucking room and know that she was willing to be like, I don't know. I just won't be there for the photo op. But at the end of the day, she was down to grind the machine the same way. She just wanted, Israel to be cool about it, or at least for there to be some way that there could be some kind of separation of the administration from what Israel was conducting, which is impossible to fucking do. And I've even went even further into the thought experiment. I don't even think if you would put a Barack Obama in that situation, he handles it the way Trump does. Not to say that Trump has handled it well. He's done a lot of fuck shit and will continue to do fuck shit and is going to continue to enable Israel. But at least he is saying, hey, for my own sake, you got to cut this shit out. And that is at least stopping the clock or moving things back for at least a second. And these times, I really feel like that's kind of all we get, I guess. So I don't fucking know, man. So I felt compelled to talk about this shit a little bit. But since we're on the Trump shit, we're on the Trump train, we're going into the Trump verse. Let's talk about some Trump L's, because, he's been taking a couple. From Politico, Trump administration retreats on anti-weaponization fund. President Donald Trump is retreating from plans for a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund after a fierce backlash from congressional Republicans, according to two people granted an anonymity to describe the decision. Also, I love how many leaks are in this fucking ad, man. They just are so squeaky. They're so ready to yap and talk and snitch on this fucking man. And to the person to the left or right of them, if it just gets them a little bit of attention. I always wonder about that. Like, I was thinking about that too when I was watching the whole traffic show. Like, what makes someone want to be a source? Right? Like, because oftentimes you're not really getting paid. You're not really getting any kind of big incentive. If anything, you're risking yourself and you're becoming compromised in a way. Why do it? And, I had a little pontification about it. But it had to be either, there's some kind of moral thing you feel so compelled, or it's some kind of attention thing, right? Like, and I'm still thinking about this. I'm still dwelling on it. But needless to say, I think these people are just crabs in a bucket. And at the end of the day, they see this shit for what it is. There are some people who do, and they're willing to fucking tell that story as it's happening. And I mean, hey, I guess at least we get a little window peek. White House officials communicated the move Monday to top Republicans on Capitol Hill, people said. The Justice Department, which was set to administer the fund, also indicated Monday it would abide by the court ruling to halt progress after a federal judge in Virginia on Friday temporarily halted any payouts or other work to establish the fund. But the White House has not stated publicly yet whether it would move to make changes to the fund or kill it altogether, or seek to retrieve it later should Trump change his mind. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of it. But I just wanted to get this in that this was something that looks like they are not getting easily. They are hitting a bit of roadblocks too. Another thing that is a potential Trump L, we'll say, from NPR. Trump's name must come off the Kennedy Center, judge rules. A federal judge has blocked President Trump from adding his name to the Kennedy Center, saying the Washington, D.C. arts complex was named for the late President John F. Kennedy. In a ruling on Friday, the judge also temporarily blocked the administration from closing the Kennedy Center for a planned 2-year renovation that was slated to begin in July, which you could argue, and it was kind of speculated, he was doing this 2-year reno to paste over the fact that people were dropping out of performing because they didn't want to perform for this fucking administration. They didn't want to perform in the Trump Center. They're like, dude, this is lame as fuck. This is whack as fuck. Which is also a little bit of a side note. A bit of an issue for this 250th fucking gala event he's trying to do, or a big old birthday party. There's a lot of people that once the names have kind of, hit the airwaves that are going to be performing, they're just like, ooh, I'm getting some backlash and I'm instantly not interested. I actually don't want to perform for you. But yeah, I do think that there's a bit of that where he's like, oh, well, we'll just do a renovation. We're trying to paint the White House, or we're trying to paint the whole fucking DC in my image anyway. So okay. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper wrote in his ruling, the Kennedy Center's organic statue makes crystal clear that the center is to be named for President Kennedy, and it cannot bear any other formal name or public memorial based on the board's unilateral say-so. Congress gave the Kennedy Center its name, and only Congress can change it. Let me fast forward a bit here. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump blasted Judge Cooper for blocking his plans for the Kennedy Center and said that the institution is financially and structurally troubled. Trump said he would work with Congress to relinquish the administration's role in overseeing the Kennedy Center. Unless I am free to do what I do better than anyone else, bring this institution back, physically, financially, and artistically, I have no interest in continuing what could only be a hopeless journey into Neverland. So I don't know how off this he actually is. That being said, he's supposed to take this shit down, I think, within 2 weeks, 14 days or whatever. Not of this recording. But it doesn't look like he has as of yet. So we will see. So yeah, a couple of Trump L's there. I wouldn't say any of these things are set in stone. But, it does look like he has these moments of trying to flood the zone, do a bunch of bullshit at once, make a couple of claims, either executive orders or lawsuit here or whatever the fuck, and then just gets bounced, just gets rejected. Or once again, he tries to paste over the fucking, nation's capital, and then it's like, yeah, dude, you can't do that. Someone's gonna stop you. And then with the weaponization fund, he tried to pull this fucking quick one where he brings this case up, and then the judge goes, wait a second, are you trying to do some legal rigmarole where you give yourself money? I need you guys to write this shit out, both sides. And then immediately goes, actually, never mind. We're just gonna settle this. Actually, it's settled. We're good. We're just gonna give Donald Trump a weaponization fund. And the judge is like, look, the Democrats have asked me to investigate this shit. And I'm thinking about it. So, I think the block gets a little bit too hot for these things. Then there's a bit of ebbing. There's a bit of, retreating. And then you flood the zone later again, or you come back to this another way. So, we'll fucking see. But yeah, I'm always happy to toast this motherfucker taking a downfall, big or small. Anyway, let's move on to our last story. This has been a thing I've been kind of keeping up with off of the pod, and I was like, okay, let's go ahead and cover it now. And by now, I'm still a bit late, but we still have more to cover. It's still kind of a live action story, if you will. But let's go ahead and take our last break, and then we will close it out. All right. From NBC News, rescuers race to save last two men trapped in Laos cave. With their elbows and knees scraping the walls as they wriggle through catastrophic claustrophobic tunnels, rescuers enter a race against time to save two men still stuck in a cave in central Laos. 7 men in search of gold were trapped in a maze-like cave network in Zaisobon province more than a week ago when heavy rain and flash flooding blocked the only entrance. Five of them have since been freed as water levels dropped, including 4 who walked out on their own Saturday, just as divers were getting ready to go in and get them. On Monday, the focus narrowed on the remaining 2 men as divers used ropes to rappel down deep into shafts, straining to hear clues for where they might be. Kengard, I'm fucking this one up, Bongkawang, a Thai specialist cave diver whose Metaham Association Rescue Unit is leading the high-stakes operation, said they were not giving up on their search, though he admitted he was feeling the pressure with lives on the line. The discouraged and tired feelings are a lot. I still feel I am failing in many things, he told NBC News as he teared up while speaking from the site in an interview Monday. To be the operator and to be the leader, the pressure is so different. Let's see here. He said his team had been in and out of the Laos cave at least 3 times a day as the first 5 men were rescued. I think we did it. We made it for the rest. We will try to do our best. So yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that all of these guys can get out of here. I had initially heard this story like they were all trapped, and I was like, ooh, that does not sound good. This could be very bad. But then I was hearing news that like, hey, they were making inroads. They weren't giving up hope. And I was like, okay, so I might wait a little bit. And then I was hearing like, okay, people are getting free. They're getting out. And I'm like, okay, that's really relieving. So, I mean, sadly, it's still a bit unfortunate that there's still 2 people that are trapped. I'm hoping, we're knocking on wood, crossing our fingers, sending up everything, whatever, that these guys get out and they're going to be free. Hopefully, I come back up with an update soon on this. But yeah, I mean, obviously very unfortunate. You're trying to, you're doing your thing, trying to make some money. You're trying to do your gold mining shit. And next thing you know, you are fighting for your life. You're in a survival situation. So yeah, it seemed very perilous. And I know that there's been a lot of people, putting their lives on the line for this shit. I feel like we covered a story like very, very similar to this, what was it, like a week or so ago. So I'm happy to hear that, hey, at least in this situation, there's some people who have lived and they've gotten out alive, and hopefully everyone will get out alive. So yeah, we are closing out. We are, ending the episode with that story. I'll keep you posted on any more, updates I get. But yeah, that is the day. That is the episode. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, get on the next Newsy roll call, patreon.com/AZnews, become a Newsy today. Also, there's some old archived, episodes, little extra news, things like that. Extra thoughts sometimes I'll post there. I haven't in a while, but, overall, just a little tip jar, but, do get the roll call like we did at the top. Let's see. Fruiz, hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Let's see. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is always caring. 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts are always appreciated. But regardless, whether you do any of that, nothing at all, I just appreciate you listening. I appreciate you hanging out. I appreciate you letting me yap to you about my day, about my rises, about my falls, about my triumphs, about my tribulations. It's always nice to know that there's someone on the other end, giving a shit. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.